Hey guys, Warren S here, Rock Sculptor. Hope everybody's having a beautiful day. This episode is going to cover color. We're going to talk about some of the terminology, terms used, a little bit about mixing. We're not going to cover too much, actually nothing on application. We're not ready for that yet. But I really wanted to dive in on some of the theory and background to color. This is going to help make things a lot easier when we go to mix color in the field, which obviously ups your knowledge base, puts more money in your pocket. All right, guys, let's jump right in. Okay, guys, before we jump right in, if we could give me a quick like and subscribe, that helps me to keep content flowing on this channel and keep the information flowing. All right, guys, let's jump in. Hey, what's up, guys? Warren S here with Rock Sculptor. Today's the 16th of February, which is actually a Sunday. Found some time. I want to knock out a video regarding color and colors, the system that DreamKrete and myself developed, and kind of want to go through a little bit of theory rather than just jumping in the shop and picking up spray bottles, mixing color. I want to kind of give you guys a little bit of background to help you understand. I always felt that training coupled with the theory side of things and then the application. So today's going to cover the theory. If you guys have been following me, I've been ripping and running over the United States the last couple of months, so I haven't really been able to sat down and do a consistent series of videos. I'm hoping that's changing. So we're going to start today. We're going to dip into color. And like I said, I just wrapped up the World of Concrete. We had about 30, 35 participants. And kind of the same questions keep coming up in color, so I kind of want to address that. Also, a quick little tidbit. We got some training coming up, physical training down in the Fort Worth, Dallas, Texas area. There's a GFRC training, which is like countertops, precast, spray-on face coats, things of that nature. That's going on March 30th and April 1st, 2-day workshop. My workshop is the following day, which is going to be the 2nd and 3rd. That's a Thursday and Friday, respectfully. So if you're down in that area, you're close to, or just want to fly in, they're relatively inexpensive. It's going to be great. Bob Chatterton's going to be there. Possibly John Allegro out of Bay Concrete, myself, Jeremy Wilkinson, and the whole team. So Chris Poe. So if you guys can make it, I think it'd be very, very beneficial, not even from an education standpoint, but from a networking. All right, enough of that. Let's just jump right in. So, like I said, this video is going to cover a basic introduction to color. And so let's just dive right in. So let's bring up the color chart. So this is the color chart that myself and DreamKrete developed for the vertical industry and the GFRC industry. I've been working on it for quite some time. But what it is, if you notice, it may appear to be limited in colors, but what they are, those are like the primary nature tones. So with those 8 colors, black, white, and you can see all the other colors to the left and right, you should be able to make every color in that nature bracket. Make more sense once I get into the meat and potatoes. All right. So black is on the left. You got the white. Those are going to make your gray. You got a reddish tone, yellows, and some browns, and the green, obviously. Again, pretty simple. Pretty real super simple. Now, let's go ahead and talk about color. So this is the color wheel. Everybody's seen this in, elementary school and what have you. Pretty basic. Let me draw on here. Let me make a new layer. I can help illustrate. So the red, indicated by the R, and then the blue, and then the yellow are your primary colors. Okay? So those 3 colors make up everything in the rainbow. And then within that, if you draw a pyramid, a triangle within that, same thing. Then you draw an opposite. You got purple, orange, and green. Excuse me. So, sorry about the cough. I'm recovering from a cold. So red and yellow make orange. This is orange. The yellow over here and blue make green, right? There was what we call secondary colors. And then the red and blue make up a purple. Well, the cool thing is in nature or geology themed or interior themed color palettes, very rarely do you see these color tones in like your furniture, those bright. I'm sure there's some modern decor that may incorporate some of those colors, but generally speaking, geology speaking, let's just say, keep it in terms of geology, all your focus is really on the orange, the red, yellows on the warm side. So bring up another color chart here. Okay, you can kind of see on the left side, make a new layer here so I can draw on it. This is on the cool, and this is on the warm. So it's really kind of making it simplified for us artisans or artists is that we only need to operate on this side, on the orange, and especially brown. If you look at brown, that's kind of coming out of the orange family. Even though complementary colors will make brown, generally speaking, we're just going to be in that zone, if you want to call it that. And really helps us keep things simplified when creating color palettes for rock, countertops, stone furniture, things of that nature. What is color? Well, color is, well, everything in the universe is kind of light, right? So let me bring up that light diagram. I prepared a lot of these different graphics to help illustrate the material that I'm teaching. Let's see here. Let's go to the prism. Here we go. Okay, so here's a good diagram. So you got white light coming in on the left through that hole, and then it shoots through a prism which bends the light, breaks it down into its component colors, which make up white light. White light is comprised of all those colors in its perfect balance, which make white light. Similar how your television or monitors operate on RGB, which is red, green, and blue. LEDs make up the white color spectrum in right proportions. So I'm not going to get too technical with this, but it gives you a background to help understand, you know, what is color. Everybody's seen the rainbow when it gets a little rainy and there's vapor in the sky, and that light hits those droplets and gets bent. That's how we're able to see a rainbow. Pretty cool, actually. But just think about that. Those tones, which I just showed you on the color wheel, make up everything in this universe. So I think it's pretty fascinating. Let me close that down. Open up another. So who developed that? Well, Isaac Newton, or Sir Isaac Newton. In 1671 to 1672, he discovered the origin of color. And you can Wikipedia this. I'm not going to get too much into it, but I think it's pretty fascinating that he contributed his science and findings to this. So hats off to Sir Isaac Newton. Helps us kind of understand what we see in nature from a subtractive light form and additive light form on both sides of that scale. All right. Okay. So let's just jump into some color palettes. Well, like I said, there's a cool and a warm. And let's just start in with this image. So this is like a bag of Skittles. In fact, it's just a bunch of wet, polished agate rocks. Very colorful. It's not something I would use on a rockscape per se, but you could do some fun things with that. But I wanted to show you that if things are too bright or too chromatic, you could see that it kind of just, it doesn't pop. It doesn't have the right balance. What do I mean by balance? Well, let's talk about the value scale. And what that is value is nothing more than how dark something is or how bright something is. So towards the right, let me grab a pen here. So towards the right, we got that being a level 10, which is the brightest. On the left is the darkest, right? You got black and white. Well, in the middle, the middle zone, you got what we call 50% gray, right? Gray is very important in nature. You got to have it. I call it the chicken broth or the broth to any soup. Any soup or stew is going to have a level of broth in there that kind of sticks everything together. And that's how I feel that you should be mixing your colors with a level of gray if you're using the color system. Let me bring that color palette up again. Yeah, let's see. Right here. And then let me just close that layer down. Let me delete it. Okay, so these colors you should be mixing with gray as your base tones. So none of these colors are, you can use them single component, but they're made to mix. If you look at the two colors on the left and the right, black and white, are going to make the gray. That's what we call a tone. So any color mixed with gray is going to be called a tone. Any color mixed with black is going to be a shade. Any color mixed with white is going to be a tint. Very important. That allows you to keep color harmony, and it also allows you to create a simplified palette to keep your values and tones in a working order or a good composition. All right? I'm going pretty fast, and just kind of raise your hand and say, I believe with all of this, because it's going to make sense as I do more videos and as well as I climb into this. Grab a quick sip here. All right. So like I said, this is the value scale. So 0 being black, 10 being white. Okay, that's super, super important. Okay, let me close that down. Okay guys, so here's the other, here's the chroma scale that I found online. The only columns I really want to pay attention to are the ones right around this zone. Especially the orange. Like I said, this red and yellow make this orange. But you notice if you start adding gray to it, you can see how kind of a nice tone you end up with. So look at that orange. In fact, if I pluck that color, that's that color right there in that zone. I'm just color doppling it. Now look at it contrasted on gray, which actually appears to be pretty bright, right? Let's go to the next one. So check that out. So just going over 2 slots to the left, right around in that zone, you end up subduing that color. And it's enough to shift it to make the eye go, oh wow, that's a different color. By just adding maybe 10, 15, 20% more gray as you step that back. So like I said, the gray is the chicken broth to the stew. You're going to want to add gray if you're doing anything geology themed. Look at most rockscapes, natural rockscapes. They're going to be just loaded with gray. That doesn't mean salt and pepper granite kind of gray, but even the yellowish and brown tones are going to have a level of gray in it. Your rust stains and your oxide streaks and mineral leachings and high saturation, that's where you're going to want to pump up the chroma and have it using the colors right out of the bottle, like a tamarack brown or a Simpsonite yellow. Those two mixed together make a beautiful rust, and you in certain areas you can get that pop. But for generally speaking, you're going to be toning it down with gray. Otherwise, you're going to end up with the fruit salad effect. All right, let me delete that layer. Close that this down, and let's see here. So within that, let's talk about grays. So we got cool grays and we got warm grays. Warm grays are kind of like a gray, which is black and white, but you've added a bit of red or yellow or something on the warm side. Remember the color chart that we looked at, or excuse me, the color wheel? There's a warm and the cool. Just adding a warm tone to the gray is what we call the warm gray. I got more examples to help illustrate that in a second. The cool grays, you're going to add the blues. So, your blues and greens could be on the cool side. And your normal, if you look at it, the text here, mixed with only black and white. The middle, they actually added a red. I like to use Simpsonite yellow. It makes a beautiful driftwood gray. Gray by itself is pretty static. It's cool looking. It's neutral, but it could appear pretty static and lifeless at times. So believe it or not, just even 5–10% yellow makes all the difference in the world. Okay, let me show you this driftwood floor. Same thing here. If you look at these tones, a lot of grays. Look how potent the kind of the browns are. Let me swatch that. What I mean by swatch, if you notice that I turn this into a color picker, I could pluck that color out. Bring up this scale and look at it where it lands on this zone. Gray's all the way to the left, color is all the way to the right. So look where it's at. It's only like about 20% saturation. So it's 80% gray with 20% color. Does that make sense? And it's in the orange field. So like I was saying, all the colors that we're going to be dealing with in terms of geology, recreated nature, is going to be right in that zone right there, from the red to the yellows. There's a couple little tricks that we can do with the greens and with complementary colors. We'll get into that later with more videos, but I want to keep it pretty simplistic. Now, let me show you what that color looks like on this gray. So that I plucked that color, and I end up with this tone. Now I'll pluck the gray, pluck another color, but look at all those tones just right then and there. So that's me picking it. Now you're looking at the texture and a little bit of resolution there with the wood grain to give that static, but those are the general tones right there. Okay, one looks like a peach, one's kind of on the cool side, the other one's more like an umber or an earth brown with some gray. I would say, 75% earth brown, 25% gray on those potent areas. Okay, let me nuke that layer. So there's one example. Here's another example that I found online, driftwood grays. Pretty cool little color palette. So look at the different colors that they're offering here. And again, you could go to the paint store and you can have all these colors mixed. But what happens is it becomes very expensive, nor do the colors perform well on concrete anyway, in my opinion. Are they adequate? Borderline adequate? Sure. Are they going to give you that pop and sizzle you're looking for? No. How do I know? Because I've tried it. Many years I actually used to add a lot of pigment to it and start chicken souping it up to get it to resonate, but then sometimes it just doesn't work out. You end up with a muddy mess because you don't know what those true rooted colors are that you're buying from the box store. In this case, you're controlling that. But look at the beautiful driftwood grays that they got there. That's just nothing more than adding a little bit of yellow to one, adding a little bit of primitive red to another, a little bit of earth brown. And by nature, you're going to end up with a beautiful, beautiful, harmonious color palette that just plays well together. All right, we close that down. Okay, and then look at this rock pile. These are small boulders. They even attach a little bit of the color swatches on the right. Look, notice the orange. The orange right here, grab a marker. Okay, the orange right here, look at the percentage that it consumes in this whole picture. Very little. I mean, there's a spot right there. Here's a little spot. Here's a little splash. A couple little splashes here. But generally, and I'll swatch some of the gray. So here's a warm gray. Here it is. So that's this area right in here. Let's pluck this one. This is more of like a cool gray. Actually, you can see a lot of green in that now. See that, guys? This color right there. So color's a very strange phenomenon because even though there's subtle differences between one to the next, you wouldn't think that it would really, the eye would pick up. But it's quite fascinating on how well the eye does compute that information. Let me zoom in and pluck this. So let's pluck that color. And look at what it's reading at. It's about a 10%. So it's 90% gray, 10% colorant. Let me pluck this one. And this one's even less. You're about like 7%. And look how green it is. Notice this area right in here. You're almost on that ridge between the yellow and the green. Isn't that cool? And that little bit of green does add a lot. If you're struggling with a lot of your colors, believe it or not, you're just not inching in on that level. It's kind of like in culinary. Sometimes a lot of chefs add sugar. There's a dish that's too sweet, too tart. You know, even tomato sauces. I'm not a big fan of sugar in a tomato sauce myself, but enough added doesn't show up. It doesn't read. You don't taste the sugar, but it does enough to cancel out that tardiness. Same thing with color or music. We're doing no more different than that as well. All right. Let me nuke that. Okay. Get rid of that. Get rid of those layers. All right. Let's see here. All right. So we talked about value. Remember, value is the black and white. Here's another color chart that I found very interesting on the web. And if you notice on the left, they're talking about value or lightness, right? You got a level 2, which is on the black side, or 0, and it goes up to 9. This is just great. As it moves to the right, they're adding more color. And in this case, that yellow. And if you look at that yellow, how bright it is, as it works its way back to level 8, that's the brightness factor for it. As it goes down, look at the browns. So just off that yellow, by adding the different tones of grays and whites and blacks, you're going to end up with a very, very complex color palette. And look how harmonious it is. So that's why wood or recreation, all those colors are in harmony and they work very well together. And that's what we tried to deliver with colors. We wanted a very simplistic system by adding black, white, or gray, or mixing those colors together, are all going to create an insane amount of different colorants on the backside without having to buy every color in the coloring book. Okay? All right. Now this video, you can see I'm going pretty fast. Some of it may seem boring. Some of it you guys may find interesting. Either way, there's going to be more videos like this. And also, there's going to be a lot of application videos showing you guys how to do this. So feel free to leave me messages in the message box. You know, you don't understand this, please expand that. I'm looking to you guys to tell me or instruct me what you want to learn or what's helping you guys the most. I really don't want to sit here on a Sunday afternoon, record videos that nobody's finding interesting or helpful. So help me help you guys, and I'll keep them coming. All right. Let me finish up with, make sure I kind of covered all these different graphics. Okay, that's the value. Talked about the chroma. Okay, here's one. We'll just start from the bottom up. Okay, I thought this was interesting. We're not painting birds, but look at the color palette. It has to do with Mother Nature. Okay, you got a series of creams and browns with a splash of orange right around on the breast of that bird, followed by some cool tones on the outskirts of the breast. Okay, fascinating. And obviously we'll get into the lighting, but the lighting is definitely helping some of that out. Some of it's in shade, some of it's lit by the ambient light. We'll get more into that. But look at that. I mean, that just plays well to the eye. You could take those colors, you paint a rockscape with that, and I feel it would be beautiful. All right. How do I know? I've kind of done it. I've looked at different colorscapes in different palettes to use in my artwork. Same thing. There's another one. Look at the colors. Even the green on the bottom of his breast. Sorry, I don't know why I was doing that. But look at the green getting bounced back. That's some bounce light shooting back into his, on the bottom side of the breast. The orange is real lit. You got that yellow. It's gorgeous. Okay. Next one. Okay, here's some leaves. Pretty bright, but again, Mother Nature has a way of communicating its colors to the human eye. And in this case, very robust, very powerful. I would use these saturation levels very sparingly. If you're painting a rockscape with those colors, consuming the whole rockscape, it's going to be too bright. That's that fruit salad effect. Right? That's the color theory. We colored that. There's the prism. Just making sure. This was an interesting photograph. So we got the yellow with the brown, but look what it's contrasted on. It's on a bluish kind of grape, and it has a very powerful effect to it on the human eye. Same thing in rock. I see a lot of Pennsylvania bluestone with a leach here and a leach there. Rust, I'm talking about the yellows and the reds and the browns. It's beautiful. It's impactful. Okay, look at this one. They're pointing at the color wheel. Most of these colors on the right, that remember we talked about from the red to the yellow, those are on the warm side. Then look at the cool side. Some of that light's getting bounced back, even though it is light. But look at the effect that it has on the human eye. It's absolutely fascinating. All right, we already talked about that. Okay, here's some rock colors. You know, some of them are gray, some of them are brownish, some of them are tan, some of them a little more orange. So all out of those 8 colors of the color system sold through Trinic can create all the colors in these rocks right here with minimal ease. We're talking 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps at the max. Okay, because they're way different in house paint. We're going to get into that later. I don't want to over-convolute the video with too many technicalities, too much information at once, that I'd rather dice it up into a couple of videos. There's the colors chart again. Again, all those 8 colors, you should be able to make all the color tones that you found on a lot of my rockscapes that I do. All right. There's the warm gray comparison. Those colors right there. And the driftwood. So that's basically it. So in closing, a little bit of just want to get down some terminology. So we're going to write hue, right? Saturation, and value. Okay, the hue is the color. All right, that's the color. Red, green, blue. In geology, let's just pick the oranges. The browns and the yellows and the creams come out of that family. The saturation is how much gray is in there. Moving from total full color, so meaning like these leaves, if you look at this color right here, when I start to add gray to that, what does that look like? This is at almost full saturation, which means it has a lot of color in it moving away from gray. Okay, get rid of that, arrow, take that off. So that's what saturation is. Let's just put moving from gray. And then the value is how bright. These are generic terms to help you understand how bright. Let's put a sun. So remember that value scale? Gray, white, and black. 0 being, white, 10 being black, 5 is in the middle. That's your value. So those 3 are going to make up, those 3 attributes are a way to characterize a color. What's the hue, saturation, and value? Now, if you look at the software program I'm using is Photoshop. When I bring up this color picker, as you see here, look at the first area, which is HSB, hue, saturation, and brightness. As I move this needle up and down, if you can see that, what's happening to the hue? It's in degrees. The units are measured in degrees. It's 360 degrees. So think of it as a circle. Red being at 0, going all the way back up to red, which is right, there goes 360 and it goes back to 0. And then 180 is right in the blue. Okay, and these correlate to wavelengths and light, and we're going to get into that because not super pertinent right now. And this is the zone that we're really interested in, from 0 degrees probably to like 70, call it 80 degrees, right on the curt tails of green. So from 0, that's all we need to be concerned with for nature-themed colors for now, okay? And the saturation, let's move this to orange, 42 degrees. Now watch what happens when I move this dial to the left. Look at this, the number on saturation. That means how much gray, moving from gray, if gray is on the right, or excuse me, on the left, notice that number, that first number is not changing, U, 42 degrees. But as I move from left to right, the saturation, I'm at all that color. So like, let's just say that was Simpsonite yellow. I'm all the way to the right, 100% saturation. As I move to the left, I'm adding gray to it. You notice the percentages go down. See that? And then your brightness, the last attribute, is how dark. Notice it went to 0, the B went to 0, or how bright it went, going up. 100% bright, it means all the lights are on. As I go black, all the lights are off. Think about light in the closet. There's no light in the closet until you open the door. Same thing here. So you're at 100%. And believe it or not, look how many colors you can make up. So like if I would make it, this would be like a cool brown right in here, right? See the brown it created? I'll actually paint some right here. So that's the brown. That puts you at a U of 42 degrees, a saturation of 45. Remember, that's the gray. And then the brightness of 31, which lands right around here. And that's pretty simple, and I'll leave it at that. I think that pretty much caps it off. I kind of want to keep it simple, sweet. This is the first of many videos that I'm going to be doing with color, along with the application. But this gives us a good toe in the water. Let me know what you guys are struggling with. If you have any questions, and what kind of material you're looking for me to do. We do have some classes coming up. Like I said, we got the GFRC class down at DreamKrete down in Texas, and that's going to be March 30th and April 1st. April 2nd and April 3rd, and I'm going to be doing some vertical. You can learn all of this stuff at those classes. They're very inexpensive, and this is only going to strengthen your knowledge base. So, all right, guys, I'm going to sign off. I hope you guys liked the video. If you can, support the channel, get the word out. If you can do, give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe. Help me get the word out, and I'll get more of these videos out. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.